Hi, I'm Nick Ross for iTWire. We're at Southstart. Who are you and what do you do, please?
I'm Craig Swan, and I'm one of the directors of Southstart, so got my fingers right in the pie.
So I guess you're the best person to tell us about Southstart.
You'd think so, although I would imagine that many of the people who talk to you might give a better thing. I mean, so Southstart's it's a 3-day festival of innovation, of imagination, of impact. But what does that really mean, right? It's a bunch of words. Really, it's 3 days in Adelaide that brings kind of the brightest people that we can kind of scour together across the country and beyond to come together. And these are the people that are building the future, you know? So it's this unique moment to sort of celebrate what we're doing, to lament what is happening, but to come together and share our stories of both success and failure in terms of how we together can build a stronger ecosystem and create a bit of a flywheel for innovation in this country.
And what makes it different to other startup-focused events that we've had in Australia?
It's human first, you know. I think part of the magic of this event is the fact that it's held in Adelaide, where a lot of events typically will happen on the East Coast. And I think when you have the larger kind of corporate-y commercial events that might happen there, you find that it's got a much more transactional flavor to it. And I think this is an event that really kind of takes everyone back to the human essence, and we come together as humans first that happen to be building incredible things. And I think the authenticity of that and the generosity of the people that come to share their knowledge makes it a very special place where there's very little divide between the people in the audience and the people on the stage, and kind of everyone is seen as equals. And that is an incredible way to kind of break down those barriers and open up true relationships. That is what's essential to building in that non-transactional way.
In a general sense, who are the attendees that come here?
I mean, largely you've got a mix of the founders and the startups that are building these incredible technologies and businesses. You have the investors that are there to support them. And then you really have the entire sort of ecosystem with operators and all the people whose job it is to really get behind and support these people in a whole bunch of different capacities. So you'll have people from government and policy, you'll have sort of the operators that are running things. And then you have a lot of people that are supporting the startups inside of them, because we will offer skills at marketing and sales and a lot of other components that maybe a founder doesn't do on its own. But primarily it's a founder first place where you can really kind of, you know, break bread with people that are on the same journey and realize that it's difficult as it is, you're not alone.
One of the things I've noticed in past events, not Southstart particular, but what would help you make the event better, other than, I'm guessing, more money, but like as input from various stakeholders and organizations?
I think it's a bit of an awareness piece. I think because we operate an event that's a little bit out of the norm for what people expect when they go to a traditional business conference, because we don't use that word. We think it's a terrible word. It's more of a convergence or a conversation. I think it's an awareness, but we also temper that with the fact that we deliberately try to keep this at a certain scale. There's a certain scale where it gets too large and where maybe the organizers see there's an opportunity to leverage it for their own reasons. You start to lose that human contact piece. So we try to keep it sort of on a smaller scale. So it's that balance of how do you get the right people there. So it's really keeping the quality control. So how do you do that? It's really just layering on an amazing experience so that people say, you got to come to this thing. And I think that has been the nature of how we've grown and kept it where, you know, have to pardon my language here, but there's no dickheads here. And there's somehow they know not to show up, and people appreciate the fact that you can just be vulnerable, you can be real, and you can be all the things that you have to dance around when you're talking to partners in the real world. But here you can kind of very much be yourself and steep in the realness of it.
One of the things I noticed, which is really, really cool, and it's that the Adelaide Fringe is on at exactly the same time over the road. Is that just a complete coincidence, or is that by design in any way, and do you have any crossover at all?
Well, I'll tell you, a couple of years ago, we actually took over the Garden of Unearthly Delights and held a whole day there in the tents. So it's an amazing time. March is really festival season in Adelaide. Certainly there's an energy here when the Fringe is here. Definitely there's a design aspect of leading into that. You know, we are very fortunate that our audience is comprised, majority is actually interstate. So because we had so many people coming here, we're hosting them. There's a hospitality element, which Adelaide does fantastically, and having the Fringe going on at the same time just allows for more spontaneous, serendipitous adventures where people were doing karaoke the other night, and tonight after the block party, people can spill out there. And I think there's a vibrancy to the city that resonates with what the event stands for. And I think it's just a natural fit to do it when the city's just really alive, to give that kind of experience to people coming into Adelaide.
I have to agree with that. I mean, having been to countless conferences in Sydney and Melbourne, especially in recent years, they can get lost very easily in the city. Here, it feels more like a vibe that you might get in some international ones, like in Dublin or Hong Kong, for example. I'd say, what are the hot topics that are being talked about at this conference?
Well, no one talked about AI at all. I mean, listen, I think there's a lot of, from a sector basis, there's a lot of talk about some of the critical systems. I mean, there's things going on in the world that's affecting Australia. So it's interesting to get those conversations out there. But I would have to say that beyond the traditional ways of how we're growing companies and how we scale and learning about the actual growth of the business, we can't deny the fact that AI is playing a pivotal role in terms of how people are beginning to rethink it. So it'd be silly for me to pretend that that's not a dominant theme here. However, a lot of the ways that we're looking to tackle that is not necessarily, direct and head on. I mean, I just got out of a session that was about parenting in the 21st century. So what is the impact as a parent or for the next generation with these type of technologies and the challenges there? So, and that's a big part, I think, to the ethos of what the event is. It's not just conversations about business. We talk about some of the bigger issues that affect us as humans. I think that's the really interesting counterpart where you're having these conversations that have nothing to do with your business. And that might be where you connect with somebody else tonight when you're having dinner or you're at the party. But primarily I would say a lot about the relationships between capital and the challenges that Australia has with regards to where we are. It's not really a capital-rich situation now. We're going through a lot of changes. So how do we have those conversations to figure out what the path forward is together? And we really try to get the conversations where we have an element of policy conversation, we have an element of technology conversation, and the business conversation. Because if you're building in this country, if we don't have alignment between what policy is dictating, what investment is backing, and what founders want to build, you're struggling with the whole thing. So we try to bring all those conversations together so you have a very clear picture of where as a nation we're trying to go, so you can be more in alignment with regards to how you might raise capital or how you might think about positioning or what regulatory things might be taking place or shaping that could affect the way that you're building your business.
Well, you partly covered it, but where is Australia and the startup scene at right now? Because it's not been great at its previous attempts, and hopefully it's a lot better now. Where do you see it? How has it changed? Has it changed? What needs to change?
Well, I've been in Australia myself since starting the festival for 8 years. So it's been interesting because the previous 10 years I was living in New York. So to come from New York to even Adelaide, which is a certain subsector of Australia, there's definitely a very nascent element to it. So we're definitely behind, some of these larger cities and ecosystems that are there. But, playing some small role in helping build that ecosystem has been incredible to see the growth, and particularly in Adelaide. I mean, I think when I started, it was a challenge to get someone like a Cam Adams from Canada to come down here and thinking, it's cute to ask me kind of attitude. But I think what's happened here has really stepped up the game. And I think now actually a lot of people are looking to what's happening in Adelaide in terms of the support that it's getting across government, across all these different things to really propel it and make it one of the more dominant centers in the country. There's a lot of challenges, but I think a lot of that now is coming into a larger global play. I mean, when you talk about building a startup compared to an SME, that's more about how do we have a potential scaling that can be global. But when you're doing that, you're obviously impacted by the conditions of what's happening globally, and we're in a very interesting point for a whole bunch of reasons what's happening there. And I think there's a bit of a finger over a couple of buttons, not sure which one to press. Are we going ahead with this or are we not? A lot of that falls under, I think, what's happening with AI. So there's it feels like there's a bit of a waiting game right now in terms of how to deploy capital and the best use of that capital. And capital has been a little bit tight. So It's trying to figure out the pathways to how to unlock that cap. And I think we're really close to figuring it out. I think and it's going to be where the sort of needle drops with regard to artificial intelligence generally and the adoption cycle. So I feel like there's been definitely growth in the last few years, but we're in a bit of a holding pattern to see how this is going to play out to really deploy.
Right. Is there anything else you'd like to add while you've got the ear of Australia's IT B2B and all kids?
I mean, come to Southstart next time. You know, you miss this one. It's a killer opportunity, but and that probably would be it, because I think more and more as we're being pushed to rely on technology to solve our problems and to hire less and use agents and AI more, it goes down a different path that leads to a lot of severe loneliness. And we're seeing that in the founders that are being asked to build more with technology and other people. And I think if I were to get into someone's ear about Southstart in particular, I'd say this is a wonderful opportunity to find a way to meet people, to break bread, and to be amongst those that are feeling the same, that are on similar journeys, and to realize that you're not alone. There's people out there that actually think the way that you do, that are approaching building tools, businesses, and technology the way that you do. And there's nothing like, you know, having a beer or breaking bread with those people to really figure out and get your mojo back in terms of like, okay, like, I'm not alone, let's go do this. And have some new compatriots that do that with.
There's a big thing about enshittification, and AI is often at the middle of it. And what would you say, are there any conversations about avoiding the enshittification of your company by making claims and changing functionality? Or what's your view on it? What are the discussions?
I think there's a hard truth to the enshittification that problem might actually be us. I think the power of the tools combined with a lot of ignorance around the tools makes people very lazy and very complacent. And I think that enshittification is a result of people that aren't leveraging the tools enough. So they're being lazy with what they're asking an incredible intelligence to help them with, and they're getting many times mediocre results. So I think a lot of that is a result of user error and expecting miracles from something without doing the work yourself. And I think the people that I've seen get the most out of it, and I include myself in that, are the people that really lean in very hard. And it's not just typing, hey, write me an email or fix this thing or do that. It's sitting down and using your voice, and it's not typing, and it's speaking as we are now for 15 minutes into this thing, because it has the ability to go through all of that and actually figure out what that means at a very deep contextual level. But I think people don't spend the time to do that. They want the quick, easy, let me just type in a prompt and get my marketing stuff for the week. But you're always going to get shitty results unless you're actually spending the time. So I would encourage people to avoid that, to speak rather than type, and be very long-winded, and realize that you've got something that can considerably enhance what you're doing, but it's garbage in, garbage out. I think the problem with this is that people are putting garbage in, and they need to spend more time cleaning that up and really spending the time to deliver high quality inputs to get the kind of results that we expect from a technology like this.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.